The 3D platformer genre has definitely become an underutilized one in recent years. This saddens me seeing how it's debatably my favorite. Now, when one thinks of 3D platformers, what games come to mind? Often games like Super Mario 64, Sonic Adventure, and Rayman 2. Most of these are successors to popular 2D games. Taking this into consideration, what about Pac-Man? As I mentioned in my Mario Galaxy 2 review, the game Pac-Man revolutionized the 2D platformer genre and was the sole inspiration for Shigeru Miyamoto's classic Super Mario Bros., the game often falsely credited for inventing side-scrolling platforming. So if Mario made it into the third dimension safely, why shouldn't Pac-Man? According to GameSpot, Pac-Man World was originally shown at E3 1997 and was criticized for quote-unquote trying to pull a Mario. I questioned the validity of this point, but I couldn't find any footage, so it looks like we have to take it for granted, something I'm not necessarily fond of doing. Anyway, as a result of this, the original development team was replaced with one led by Gil Colgate. Pac-Man World was released in 1999 in celebration of Pac-Man's upcoming 20th anniversary. So yeah, you can see where this is going. I'm going to be doing a whole retrospective on the Pac-Man World series. Now, I apologize for doing a whole bunch of retrospectives in a row like this, and normally I would spice things up a little bit more, but unfortunately this time I truly can't help myself. You see, I've recently been diagnosed with a case of Pac-Man fever, and yes, it's driving me crazy. Bad jokes aside, let's move on to the original Pac-Man World for the PlayStation. Pac-Man's family and friends have decided to put together a party for Pac-Man's 20th anniversary, and they're all captured by the ghosts led by Talkman, Pac-Man's robotic impersonator built and controlled by a young ghost by the name of Orson. He's throwing a party on Ghost Island, and while it's less than satisfactory,
I wanted gold streamers and red balloons! The DJ stinks, the banners are crooked, and the cake should be chocolate!
he doesn't want the real Pac-Man to interfere. So why did he kidnap his family?
What do you want?
Pac-Man's here on Ghost Island! The Pac-Man!
I thought you had captured Pac-Man!
We did, see? Oops.
If I had a power
A
pellet,
slight error on our part. Believe me, it won't happen again.
You idiots! My plans are already in motion! Pac-Man cannot be allowed to crash my party! Find him and destroy him!
On a presentation level, it's actually rather impressive. The textures are surprisingly smooth for a PlayStation game, and the models are done very well considering the hardware. Definitely one of the better looking games I've seen on PlayStation. The music is pretty good too. It often plays on themes from previous Pac-Man titles like Miss Pac-Man, while having some really memorable songs of its own like Far Out. And sometimes freaking epic songs like Under Pressure. Then of course we have those classic sound effects. Overall, this is a game that's pleasing to look at and to hear. Now, while you'd be spending a lot of time eating ghosts, Pac-Man came back with a few more tricks up his sleeve. His main attack is the butt bounce, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's used to hurt enemies, activate switches, and fly into the air if used on a Bedoing, or in other words, a super trampoline. He can also rev roll, which is clearly a nod to Sonic's speed dash. This is used to attack enemies and to make your way up certain areas too steep to walk across. Finally, Pac-Man can use the Pac-Dots he collected as explosive projectiles. Awesome! The first thing you will notice about this game is how the camera moves, as most of the time it moves in a horizontal manner, giving the player almost a 2D feeling. This may sound bad at first, but it really works with the level design actually. The only real problem I have with it is how this occasionally results in not knowing how close and far away certain objects are. Thankfully, this doesn't happen that much, and when it does, it's not anywhere near as bad as, say, Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. So it's a relatively minor complaint. In each stage, you make your way to the end and collect the token. However, you are highly encouraged to go back and complete mazes, collect fruit, and collect the letters scattered throughout the stage that spell Pac-Man. If you collect all of the letters, you are sent to a bonus stage where you can earn some more extra lives. And trust me when I say this, you are going to need them. You also have to search for keys hidden in each world, so you can free everyone that has been captured. This is all fine, but this means that there's a lot of backtracking, and that I feel is one of the game's major weaknesses. After completing the first stage, you can play in any one of the first 3 worlds, and once you complete every stage in the first 3 worlds, the next 2 are unlocked, and so on. There's some pretty good variety here, and there's even a spaceship shooter level in the style of Galaga, which is really cool, and it reminds me of how in Turrican 2 there's spaceship levels in the style of Katakis. The bosses in this game are surprisingly difficult. The hardest one for me was Anubis Rex, the boss for the Ruins world. Everything imaginable is flying right for you. If you could get through this stage without even getting hurt, then you deserve a medal. Not to mention, some of the later stages get really difficult too, especially in the factory and graveyard. Do not go into this game expecting a cakewalk. Your ass will be handed to you. Overall, this is a great game, and a very good 2D to 3D transition. One of the best I've ever seen, actually. Hell, I'd say that in comparison to Mario 64 and Sonic Adventure, this is the better game. And before you shoot me, let me explain why. In order to do this, I've developed something called the bias test. Now imagine each of these 3 games on their own, without any connection to their respective series whatsoever, and with any references to earlier titles replaced, but keeping the gameplay intact. While Mario 64 and Sonic Adventure would still hold up quite well, I feel that Pac-Man World would hold up the best under these conditions. That's just my opinion. If you disagree with me, that's fine. However, this game is an overlooked gem that really should be more well known than it is. Join me in part 2 where I'll cover the incredible sequel, Pac-Man World 2.